All right, it's 12 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks y'all for coming out. We've got a great crowd here in person on this cold, rainy, windy day, so we really appreciate it. And then I also want to thank our virtual audience for being here as well. We'll go ahead and dive in because this is one of our quick Wellness Wednesday sessions. Not hold you too long, 12 to 12:30. So I want the majority of that time to be focused on what Craig will be presenting to y'all today. So Mackenzie sent out a chat already. We need virtual attendance, and then at the end, we've got, if y'all haven't signed in, make sure you sign in the sign-in sheet here. We'll do virtual attendance through the chat, and then at the end, I'll make an announcement for something that you were all, whoever's here in attendance, whether virtually or in person, is eligible for. All right, great. Craig is going to talk to us today about aging and maintaining our muscle strength, and he's a great person to talk to about this because he leads our Tuesday, Thursday fitness classes on resistance training, 12:15 to 12:45 for anybody who wants to come. And so he's going to talk to us all about the importance of this. So turn it over to you, Craig.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. First off, I am grateful for the opportunity to come up here and share with you all just some of the things I'm learning as a student here at the University of North Alabama. So we're going to talk about the importance of skeletal muscle as we age. And we're having some.
Oh, no, did it go away?
Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Sorry about that. So we have some goals today, and real briefly to discuss why is building muscle important as we age? Why is it? How do we improve it? And what motivates us to increase our muscle strength, mass, and function? And real briefly, what are we not talking about today? We're not talking about any of this right here. We're not talking about walking on the San Francisco 49ers or bodybuilding, and I don't know what that is on the right. I think, though, the reason I got that on there is I think for some of us, we may have this connotation with muscles that it's for getting big and bulky, and it's not. What we're talking about today is training for age. When I'm at the gym, people ask me what I'm training for today. I tell them training for age. So we're going to, now, it's really important for people to know that when we step on the scales, what we're seeing there is a combination of our body mass, which is a combination of our fat mass and our lean mass. And lean mass is muscle, bone, connective tissue, and of course, everything else would be fat mass. And so when somebody tells me that they want to lose weight, what they really mean is want to lose body fat. And I've had some younger guys come up and say, hey, I want to gain weight. What they mean is they want to gain muscle. And what muscle is so important is it serves two functions. Number one, mobility. We need it to move around, to stand straight. But number two is something I think a lot of us don't think about is a metabolism. Muscle is a metabolically active organ. It's a primary site for both glucose and fat utilization. So skeletal muscle and physical function are critical throughout the aging process. Skeletal muscle reaches peak levels as young as 20, and it can go up to about 40, so it's a big deviation there. Loss of muscle mass is generally gradual after the age of 30, and this accelerates after age 60. We're going to talk about how and why. So what happens to skeletal muscle as we age? So on average, we lose approximately 0.5% of our skeletal muscle mass after the age of 40. And this escalates to about 1 to 2% annually every year after the age of 50. And this increases exponentially to about 3% annually after the age of 60, and approximately 30% of peak muscle mass is lost by the age of 80. And this loss is exacerbated by physical inactivity and poor nutrition. And this is what we're going to talk mostly about today. So this right here is a really good picture. Down here at the bottom is the age. We'll talk about that. And here is the percent of muscle mass. And you'll see up here about age, I guess about 25, how it starts to go down. And I love this picture right here. It shows. So we hit about 30 and then it starts to go down. And this is a really good image of what we're talking about. So mechanistically, for skeletal muscle mass regulation, there needs to be a balance between rates of protein synthesis and protein breakdown. And protein synthesis is just building muscle, that's all it is, and then breakdown. Now it's important to know that we're always in both of these. It all depends on what rate. And let's see, this next picture I really like. You'll see we got 3 different age categories. And this little fella right here is at the bottom end of the age spectrum. And this young lady right here, of course, she's not middle-aged, but she's probably about 25, I guess. If she's 30, she'd be really happy with me for saying that. And this gentleman up here, he's at the top end. And so you can imagine which one of these is in protein synthesis at a higher rate, and which one would be in protein breakdown. And that's about as mechanistically as we're going to get today. So this leads us to a term called sarcopenia. So sarcopenia is a term used to define age-related declines in muscle mass, which follows muscle strength and function. And as you can see right here, this is a sarcopenic muscle compared to a young, healthier muscle. Okay, so sarcopenia is a condition characterized by progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass, strength, and function, with an increased risk of adverse outcomes such as disability, loss of mobility, metabolic dysfunction, and that's one we're really going to talk about today, poor quality of life, and even death. So back to our little protein synthesis. At a molecular level, sarcopenia results from a higher rate of protein breakdown than protein building. We'll call it synthesis, but building muscle. And at this age right here, we start to be a higher rate of the breakdown than the synthesis. So I really like this picture here. It's a great cross-sectional view of looks like the deltoid right here. And this is the young version right here, and this you can tell is the older version. And look at his muscle here. So you see all the muscle in the orange, and very little fat. And then right here, the older version, starting to get the sarcopenic muscle. I love this picture right here. I think it gives us a good view. Okay, so what contributes to sarcopenia? Well, that's a good question. So there's some factors in development of sarcopenia. Declines in levels of hormones such as growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, IGF-1, those are anabolic. A decline in the balance of protein synthesis, and we just talked about that. Also increases in inflammation and decrease in neurological signals. Now, these two right here is outside of the scope of this presentation, but they were worth mentioning. So these are the ones we really want to talk about, are environmental and lifestyle changes. So inactivity, lack of exercise, that's a big one. Also prolonged bed rest. People that are in hospitals for a long time can experience sarcopenia, and also a loss of mobility. Maybe someone who is bound to a wheelchair is not able to move around. And this is one we really want to talk about, is poor nutrition and obesity. So I really like this picture also. This kind of shows how when we lose muscle, we lose it everywhere. So we're starting to get older and we're not working out, we're not doing the things we should do. So we lose all of that muscle from our whole body. So why is sarcopenia bad? Loss of mobility. It is also important to know that skeletal muscle mass correlates with mortality. Just to move around, to get up from a chair, requires ample muscle mass and strength. Once we no longer perform these tasks, we lose our independence, and we have to have someone care for us. And so it's important also to realize we use our muscles for everything, just to get up off the ground, just to walk around, just being standing upright. And simple tasks we can lose, like walking up the stairs or even just getting out of a chair, can be hindered by sarcopenia. This leads us to something I really want to talk about today, which is sarcopenic obesity. And this is a syndrome where obesity is accompanied by sarcopenia and insulin resistance. And if some of y'all remember, we had a presentation in November on insulin resistance and how bad it is. We want to be insulin sensitive. And it's characterized by an excess body fat with decreased muscle mass and function. And this poses even greater risk for poor health-related outcomes, mobility problems, disability, than either obesity and sarcopenia alone. So sarcopenic obesity is a comorbidity. Now, this is how I see sarcopenic obesity. Of course, I'm a blue-collar scholar, so muscles are like the engines of our body. That's how I see our muscles. So if muscles are the engines of our body, imagine this would be a sarcopenic engine. Imagine if we put this engine right here in this van and expected it to operate. It would be very difficult. Now, some of my mechanic buddies would say that wouldn't even be possible. But that, to me, explains what sarcopenic obesity is. It'd be hard to move around. And it also leads us to what's called sarcopenic obesity can cause metabolic syndrome. Now, we test for metabolic syndrome during our bioscreenings. It's coming up in March. And there's 5 criteria to metabolic syndrome. And if you have 3 of these 5, someone has 3 of these 5, that's considered metabolic syndrome. And these are not in any particular order, but we got 1, central obesity, truncal obesity, 2, high triglycerides, 3, low HDL, 4, high fasting blood glucose, and 5, obviously high blood pressure. So 3 of these 5, and these can be contributed by sarcopenic obesity. So let's not forget that muscle is just a metabolically active organ. It's a key site for both glucose and triglyceride disposal. If you want to be as metabolically healthy as possible, have more muscle mass on you. I like this picture too. This really shows a good view of sarcopenic muscle right here. You'll see this is you got all this healthy muscle right here, not much body fat. And then with this one, the muscle's getting smaller, and this is a metabolic disaster right here. I really like that picture right there. So the good news is this does not have to be inevitable. All the things we just talked about, we don't have to have that. It is highly overlooked and undertreated. So that's why we're trying to bring all of this to our attention today. I think with a lot of people, I want to really change their view on muscle and the way it operates and helps us not only with mobility, but with our metabolisms and our health. So there is good news. Strength training may preserve lean body mass in people who follow low-calorie diets to reduce body fat. So strength-trained muscles have higher glucose uptake and lower insulin resistance, which equals better glucose control. And insulin resistance, if you remember, is the foundation upon which cardiometabolic diseases sit on. Cardiometabolic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, neurodegeneration, and even type 2 diabetes, obviously type 2 diabetes. So I like this right here. This is a great proof of concept. Now, I'm not advocating us become power lifters. And this gentleman right here, you can notice he's big. And I probably wouldn't want his blood pressure. I probably wouldn't want his blood glucose, but I'm almost willing to guarantee there's a great chance he's insulin sensitive, very insulin sensitive. And the reason is because he's got so much muscle. And remember, muscle is a metabolically active organ. So he is able to dispose clear all that glucose out of his body through his muscles. So we want to pump the brakes on losing muscle as we age. So how do we do that? We talked about the problem. Now let's get into the solution. So the solution is prevention and treatment with strength training and dietary. And so strength training is to trigger muscle growth, strength, and function. And then obviously dietary, a nutrient-dense diet is critical to enhance muscle growth. And we're going to talk about some of that. So strength training may prevent, slow, or even reverse muscle loss from sarcopenia. And I believe it's the best thing we can do. So how does strength training help your body, help your muscles? Well, muscle growth occurs when muscles are constantly challenged to deal with a more significant resistance or weight. And this is referred to as muscular hypertrophy. I used to hear that word a lot in the gyms before I started school, and I didn't know what they were talking about. But now I learned muscular hypertrophy is a fancy word for muscle growth. And I try to use that word as much as I can. So what kind and how much, and we'll just briefly talk about this. You can write some of this down, or you can talk to me if there's something you missed, but frequencies, how often are we doing it during the week? Number of sets and repetitions, training resistance or loads, that's how much we're using, how much weight, exercise selection, what kind of exercises are we to do? And training progression, are we doing the same stuff? You know, if you're working out, say 2 years and you're still lifting the same weight, you're not progressing. So real briefly, training frequency, aim for 2 to 3 days per week. Anything else is like working overtime, it's good. Don't exercise the same muscle group on any 2 days in a row, especially if you're really, really new to it. You wouldn't want to do chest and shoulders and tries on Monday and then come back the next day. You want your muscle tissue needs time to repair. Remodel, resulting in stronger muscles over time. And number of sets and reps. So many of you do know what reps and sets are, but for those who don't, I'll just briefly say, if you're going to do say a bicep curl, you pick it up and you're going to do say 2 sets. You're going to do 10 reps. That would be 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps, all the way to 10. Set it down. That'd be 1 set. And then you pick it back up and rest about 2 or 3 minutes in between, and then go to your second set. So that's what reps and sets are. And I've got this at the bottom. You don't have to count 3 seconds when you lift and push weight. I don't even suggest that. But what I'm trying to say is you don't want gravity doing the weight and momentum pushing it back up. And I see that a lot, especially in the gyms with our younger cohorts. They like to put on a lot of weight and just let gravity and momentum do it. So that's a good guideline right there. So exercise selection, include exercises from all major muscle groups. And I'm going to talk about that one right there just shortly. And exercise the larger muscle groups first. So if you're going to do back and biceps, you wouldn't want to start out with your biceps. It's a smaller muscle group than your back. Same for your chest, shoulders, and tris. When you're doing pushing movements with your chest, you're working chest, shoulders, and tris. And when you're doing tris, you're just working your triceps. So you wouldn't want to just start with your triceps. You want to start with your bigger ones. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make who don't know no better. You'll get more out of that. And use dumbbells, machines, resistance bands, body weights, ankle weights, cans of food, and water bottles. You guys are a lot smarter than me. You can improvise, and especially if you're new, you're going to get some benefits from just doing anything. And now, of course, as you progress, you're going to get stronger, and the cans of food and bottled water, you're going to have to upgrade a little bit. But in the beginning, anything's good. So this is kind of a view of the muscles. You want to hit all of them. I do know some people who tend to just work their upper body and they never work their legs. And we're talking about training for longevity. So we need our leg muscles. We also need our triceps. We need all of these muscles. So your pushing muscles are your chest, shoulders, and triceps. And then your pulling muscles are your back and your biceps. You got your abs. And then you got your quadriceps and your hamstrings and your calves, and that'll take care of your legs. And I suggest you work all of these throughout the week. It's a mistake I see a lot of people make. So this is something I'll see at the top. We're offering you all who are here today or watching virtually we're going to offer you a strength training session and go up to the wellness center, and we'll write you out a workout program. And for anybody who needs help, who's really interested in building some good muscle for their longevity, we're here to help you. All you need to do is email Wellness UNA, and we'll get you set up. And for some of you all who already know, I see some of y'all in here, we have a Luncheon Lift on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this is from 12:15 to 12:45, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's in the SRC Aerobic Center upstairs. And we have a lot of fun. We kind of geared it towards, we know we got to go back to work, so we don't do a lot of sweating. We just concentrate on building some muscle, some bone, and connective tissue while we're on lunch break. Encourage you all to come join that. Now, here's some movements that I really like, especially for those who are beginners. Body weight squats are really great to start out with. If you've never worked out before, or even some of us who do this pretty regularly, and you can't get to the gym that day, this is a great workout right here. If you can do 15 to 20 reps, that's even better. So then we'll graduate on to some squats, and I do believe in squats. I think they will help work our stabilizer muscles, is what we need to keep us upright and walking. The only thing is we want to learn how to do them. It's really important, and they're not hard to learn. And so I like how she's using the bar, which weighs about 45 pounds. It's not a lot of weight, but she's really concentrating on her form right here. And that's, she's learning how to do those, and those are really great exercises that I really suggest. Now, I'm not advocating this weight right here, but her form is just perfect to me. I wish my form, I've been doing this since 1988, and I still don't have form like that. So you can tell she really knows what she's doing, and she's progressed. And I had to include that picture because of that. Now, I'm definitely not advocating this weight right here, but I wanted to show that if we just keep doing this and how we can progress, I mean, that's just awesome right there. And that would give me a headache just looking at that weight. I could never even lift that, but she's got good form, and you can tell that this isn't her first rodeo. She's been doing this a while, and she's just got good muscle. She's strong. She's probably going to be doing this for a long time. So I had to include that. And then here's some of the machines that we have in the Wellness Center that I really suggest, even to some of you all who's already working out pretty regularly. I love the chest press machine. It's kind of universal for us all. And it's really great. You know, you're pressing. But as we graduate, we'll work on some dumbbells and barbells, because you work those stabilizer muscles. They're not vanity muscles, but they're the ones that we really need as we get older. And you can tell she knows what she's doing. She's got some good form. And I like the dumbbells because, you know, if you got to where you couldn't do no more, you could just drop them if you had to. Really good exercises we put on here. Good old shoulder press, and this is just to give you a view of some of the things we're talking about when we talk about strength training. These are very simple exercises. And like I said, if you need some help learning these, glad to set you up a training session. I've got to have the pull-ups on there because I've been doing this for a long time, and I can do all of 6. And I don't know why. I guess it's just we're just all wired different, but this has always been the hardest exercise for me. But I just think it's so much value in it. And also, if you can't pull yourself up, the value, remember, of just hanging from a bar is so good for us. You work your forearm strength, just stretches us out. It's really good. So even on days when I don't feel like working out, if I walked in the gym and hung to the bar for 2 minutes, I could legally say I worked out that day and went to the gym. I really think that's a great exercise if you can do them. Now, the next one I really like too, because we all can't do chin-ups. And I love this exercise right here. It's a lat pull-down, and it's in the Wellness Center. All of these are. And if you don't know how to use it, we can show you how to use that. And I highly suggest it. It's just a really good one. It's not none of these are difficult to learn. And most of you, a lot of y'all already know how to do these. All right, so now we're going to get into some nutrition, some nutritional interventions to prevent the development of sarcopenia, because we are talking about trying to prevent sarcopenia. And this is mainly focused on the amount of quality of protein intake. And the reason that's so important, well, there's many reasons, but I don't think I've ever went to bed at night going, gee, I wonder if I got enough fat today in my diet. I don't know if I got enough carbohydrates. But this is one that, you know, some people, and myself included, can question, did I get enough protein in my diet today? And protein is a builder. We'll talk about why. So we'll go back to my favorite picture, I guess, because I've got it on there 100 times. As we age, we have a diminished muscle protein synthesis response to protein intake. So we don't go through protein synthesis even when we're eating a protein good like we used to. And this influences sarcopenia. And this is exacerbated in elderly populations with obesity. And I've also read where a lot of older people don't get enough protein. And it's hard for me to imagine that, but I guess I think, you know, somebody gets up and they have a muffin for breakfast, you know, just kind of go on from that, and they don't eat a lot of high quality protein foods. And so I'm just trying to bring awareness to this. So why is protein important? Protein is found in every cell of our body. It is the second most abundant substance in our body next to water. And we eat protein to make protein. Protein must be constantly replenished every day. So there's some important reasons why we need to be mindful of this. And also functions include, we need protein to rebuild, obviously, muscle and bone and body tissue, but also our hormones. Enzymes are made of protein. Transports and stores molecules. Antibodies are made of proteins. And also, I've got energy source on there. Protein is an energy source. It provides 4 calories per gram, but it's not an ideal one. That's why we need our fats and our carbohydrates. They are our energy source. So I've never had a hard time getting those in. So the protein is the one I have to be mindful of. So amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So amino acids is what makes protein. It takes 20 amino acids are needed to make protein, and our bodies can create or make 11. So we need to get 9 of these from our diet. And this is where it kind of gets a little difficult for some people. So dietary protein types and sources. So the ones on the left, animal-based, you're going to get all 9 of your essential amino acids. Now the plant-based is always missing, except for soy. It's the only plant that I know of that has all 9. But the rest of the plant-based proteins are missing at least 1 or not sufficient in all 9. And there's ways around this. If you choose to be vegetarian, I totally support that. I do suggest you do your research to make sure you're getting your own, to make sure you're getting all the amino acids you need. So we can do this by mixing some of the plant proteins. So we know that beans lacks the amino acid methionine, and we know that corn lacks the amino acid lysine. So just by combining these foods, you can eat vegetarian or eat more plants and still get your protein. And again, I do strongly suggest you do your research on that to make sure that you're eating the way you choose to eat, but you're getting your amino acids, and it can be done. Just be very mindful of it. So although there appears to be no clear consensus on how much protein we need each day, this is a controversial subject, seems to be. The RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, I apologize, but if you read any science literature, you're always going to see kilograms. So I was kind of learning to maneuver around that. And but however, it's worth mentioning to build protein, to build muscle mass, we need about 1.6 grams to 2.4. Now the 2.4, you don't have to get that, but there is a cap. You know, anything past that, you're not going to be doing much more muscle building. So there is a cap on this, and it seems to be about 2.4 grams per kilogram. And just to kind of give us a better context of what we're talking, 1 kilogram, as we all probably know, is 2.2 pounds. So if somebody weighs, say, 150 pounds, divided by 2.2, so their kilograms would be 68. So if we go by the RDA right here, 0.8 times their kilograms, it'd only be about 54 grams of protein per day, and that is low. It seems very low to me. I think protein should be not a percentage of calories, but an absolute number in our diets, and it should go by our weight in kilograms. So, but I'm suggesting for myself, you do your own research, but I try to get about 1.6 per kilogram. So that would be for 150, which I don't weigh 150 pounds. But if I did, it'd be about 108 grams. So I think if we shoot for north of 1 gram per kilogram, we'd be in a better direction than the 0.8. I think that should be a minimum number right there. All right, so bottom line, we need more protein. You can get that from many sources. It doesn't always have to be animal. You can get it from your plant sources too. Just be really mindful about the amino acids. And right here is just to give you a view of some of the protein foods and how much they have. Right here we got chicken, which is 28 grams, steak 26, and you can see how you're trying to get, the amount that you need every day. You can kind of look and see what you need to be eating as well. I love eggs. That's just one egg, and I eat several of them. I think eggs are multivitamins. They were like, they had a bad rap back in the 80s and 90s coming up. When I was a kid, I thought they were just terrible for you. Of course, I still eat them. So let's do in summary. Muscle mass improves metabolic health, insulin resistance, and helps us keep visceral fat levels down. And that is why muscle mass is a stronger predictor of health rather than fat mass. Muscle mass is also a key factor in longevity because it helps us maintain mobility, functionality, stability, and resilience to falls and injuries, which is so big. And strength training and the amount of quality of protein can be considered as the most important factors to counteract sarcopenia. Also, it's never too late to get started. I've seen some research from a guy named Stu Phillips, who's researched some people in their 90s and found that they got stronger in their 90s through strength training. So it's never too late. But I do suggest we get started as soon as possible, because putting muscle and bone is like putting money in your bank account. So when we retire, we'll have more to start with when we got more going out. So last but not least, what motivates us to start building muscle? And I don't think really we're all as vain as people say we are. I don't think it's that right there. I think it's some of these reasons right here that I'm about to show. Playing with our kids and grandkids, just having a good time with our family. Maybe you like to bowl. Some people want to keep playing golf, or just going out in the park and just having fun and just being young. I think that's a good reason right there. Any questions?
Craig, and I don't know how much you know about this, but I think you and I both agree Whole Foods is the way to go.
Yes, ma'am.
But what if somebody says, I just can't eat that much, or I don't care for me? What about protein powder?
I suggest them. I do. In that scenario you just gave, I think you said it perfectly. Whole Foods is always the best option. But that scenario where someone just, I don't like none of that stuff I've seen you show on there. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. We need the amino acids. We talk about protein. It's actually like it's the amino acids we need. We just break that protein down, and we need 9 of them. And we need them for other things other than muscle. I mean, we have to have them for vasodilation, nitric oxide. We need them all for that. So a vast majority of reasons. That's a great question.
Yeah, but I think that there's, the quality of protein is like the information on the internet.
Yes, ma'am.
It goes from one extreme to the other.
It does.
That might be something useful, is to provide how to evaluate a good protein powder source.
Yes, ma'am.
What you're looking for. I know Gavin and Alyssa have talked about a lot, and they both have a pretty strong background in protein powders. You may want to approach them, just find a website or something where people know how to buy one. They're going to buy one.
That's a great point. And that's stuff I'm learning about, because I've never had that issue. If you hand me something to eat, you say, here, try this. And then you say, how was it? And I say, it's okay. And then you tell me it's healthy. Oh, it's great. I'm going to eat it for the rest of my life. I've always been that way. So. But that is a great question, getting your protein, however you can get it.
Any other questions? You may have questions from the chat. from virtual.
I thought that it was interesting how you said about working your major muscles first
Mhm.
and then moving down. I guess I never thought about it like that.
Mhm.
As a student that does work out regularly, it was really cool to think about, like, if you're working your chest and your
Mhm.
shoulders, like you should work your chest first and then move,
Mhm.
because your triceps are a smaller muscle. I thought that was a really cool point that you had to say.
I thought it was too, because I was one of the first things I started lifting weights in 1988. I was, a kid, but my daddy bought us our first set, and so I just wanted to learn everything about it. But that was one of the first things I do remember learning, and it makes sense if we're doing chest press. We're primarily working our chest, and then our shoulders, but our triceps are getting worked too. So that's why hitting your compound movements first. That's a compound movement. But if you'll sign up for one of those strength sessions, and we'll learn all about that. And come to Luncheon Lift, and we talk about all that too. Thank you for the question.
Great job, Craig. That was very informative. And so, as you can see, there's a lot that goes into lifting weights and doing it in the correct form, and a lot of things to consider, like I didn't know about do the large muscles first and that type of thing. So our surprise is, as Craig mentioned, he is offering those training sessions, and will take place in the Wellness Center, and that way you get to, if you are not familiar with the Wellness Center and the machines in there, he will show you the proper way to use those machines. And maybe though you've already been doing some things on your own, and you just want to be more challenged, because it is important that we switch up our routines often too, so that our muscles don't get used to a certain routine. And that also would go into those personal training sessions that Craig can do. So email wellness@una.edu. He will schedule an appointment based on that email. So thank you y'all for attending today. Last call for the chat questions. We do have one. Okay.
What do you think about beverages like Ensure for older individuals? So I guess just like milk drinks or protein shakes, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, great question. Anything we do to get our protein is going to be better than not. Those have a lot of calories in them, but you did mention older people, and their appetites are going down, maybe some dental issues, that's where we're seeing a lot of people not getting their nutrition. So in that particular case, absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that Ensure doesn't have the amount of protein in I would think it does. It does have a good bit, but I don't know. I truly believe we're about to start seeing, we're seeing it in literature now, but we're about to start seeing people place a higher emphasis on protein. I know it's had a negative connotation. Like I said, do your own research, but I'm pretty much convinced that I need more of it. And it's such a high satiety food. It fills us up. So people talk about, I don't want to eat gobs of it. Well, you probably won't. I mean, a chicken breast fills me up. A piece of cheesecake, I want another one. Great question. Tell them thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. All right, thanks everyone. Y'all have a great rest of the week. And tomorrow, Craig will be leading resistance training, 12:15, 12:45. And I will say he doesn't